You wouldn't know it because he's so humble. He's a humble guy. I love Bill. He's a second-degree black belt. He trained in martial arts for over 20 years. It didn't happen overnight. It's a discipline. He talked to me. Him and I had great lunch a couple of weeks ago. And he said, he hasn't been a Christian very long, but he said, I realized if I had to study martial arts that much to become an expert, I better go to church so I can learn about God. How about that? How about that simple observation that if you want to know who God is, you actually got to get up and do something about it. Because we get proudful in ourselves. Listen to me, I want to say something strong, but it's true. We get proudful about our Christian faith and our true spiritual condition, and we don't need God anymore. We don't need church anymore. We don't need to read the Bible anymore. We don't need to pray anymore. We don't care what our pastor said. We don't, the heck with it. I'm saved. I'm good. How's everything fine? I'm good. I got it all under control. I got money in the bank. I'm in good health. My kids are in good health. Everything's great. And then the storm comes. And what do we say? God, why did you do this to me? God didn't do it to you. Your pride kept you from being prepared for that storm that was coming. Storm's coming to all of us, folks. If you've been alive longer than a day, you know that's true. Right? Storms come. Let's go to James 4:6. James 4:6. Can't find it, always go to the table of contents in the front of the book. God bless the table of contents in the Bible. Thank God we learned how to do that in elementary school. Go to the table of contents. James 4:6. So now we come off of this issue of pride, right? And listen to the perspective of God. But he gives more grace, therefore he says. God gives more grace. But he gives grace to the humble, but he resists the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. God resists the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. There's one kind of person in Scripture that is described over and over and over and over again that is eligible for the grace of God. One characteristic, and you just read it, the humble. The strong arm of God is always resisting the proud. No matter who you are, no matter how great everybody tells you are, no matter how wonderful you are in every other area of life, if you are being proudful in such a way that you don't need God, his strong arm will resist you. Boom. Look at the banks several years ago, 10 years ago. Too big to fail. And we get that way in our ego, don't we? I don't need God. Who's going to touch me? Have you ever heard somebody say, don't you know who I am? Woo! You know when somebody's ego is in that place where they're all puffed up. So they look at themselves in the mirror and they go, oh, yes. The answer to all of life is right here. Right? Because then you make them mad, and they'll let you know, don't you know who I am? Don't you know who you're talking to? They want to put you in their place right away because they think they're too big to fail. But that's exactly the kind of person that God resists. We might be impressed with us, but he's not impressed with us. We might be able to scare and intimidate one another with that kind of stuff. And I want to tell you something. When you learn the fear of God, when you really learn the fear of God, no one will scare you. Because you'll start seeing them through the eyes of somebody, through spiritual eyes, and say, oh, man, you're in so much trouble. Woo, you better get a handle on yourself quick, Jack. Because you ain't got any idea what's around the next corner of life waiting for you. And it's going to feel like a shovel in the face. It'll be a spiritual shovel in the face. But that's what happens. My friend Glenda here, she said something to us a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about her education. And me, with the wisdom of the world, I say to her, you know, Glenda, people that get a sociology degree, they're told that you're not going to make a lot of money in it. You're probably only going to have to be a counselor who never gets paid very much. So unless you get a master's or a PhD in it, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to have a hard time trying to make a living. And I swear, I think about what you said to me almost every single day. She said to me, I didn't do this to make a lot of money. I know that I won't make a lot of money. I did this because I wanted to help people. Shazam! Man, I was like, all of a sudden I realized my thinking was caught up in the ways of the world. That's what we do. In America, we are indoctrinated that you have to have all of this to be able to do all of that, and all the things that you possess are validation of your life. But that's not the heart and the mind of God at all. Think about it. God gives grace to the humble. Where, when you pick up that book, when we pick up the Bible, does it say we're supposed to have all this stuff and do all this? Because the religious leaders had it all, didn't they? Education, power, influence, money, riches, wealth. Yes or no?
Yes.
And what did Jesus say to them when he confronted them? You're of your father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a liar and a murderer from the beginning, and so are you. Well, that's not how you win friends and influence people.
Right.
But they had that blessed assurance called proudful hope that they got caught up in instead of the assurance of the knowledge of God. And we see in churches in America, we're teaching people the same thing. You need to have more. You need to have more qualifications. You need to have a better paying job. You need to have a bigger house. You need to have this. You need to have that. More of everything but the knowledge of God. Right? We look to more as a validation of God in our lives. Well, you must be a good pastor because, brother, you're making a lot of money. And they must be a bad one because they're not getting paid at all. Yes or no? I hear it all the time. All the time. Well, you know, if God really approved of you, if God really approved of your ministry, your church would be full all the time. People actually tell me that. What is that? Pride. Jesus was as comfortable ministering to the one as he was the thousands, the few as he was the hundreds. And we have to get a fresh revelation of our own pride. It always leads to our destruction, and God always resists it. God's strong arm will always be against the proudful. But the good news is his perfect grace will always be given to the humble. Go to 1 John 2:16. I won't get through all this today, but that's okay. 1 John 2:16. I love that sound as a pastor, turning pages. Turning pages in that Bible. God's strong, for all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but it is of the world. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, it is not of the Father, but it is of the world. The pride of life, the things we have, the things we want, the things we think make us better than others. It is an absolute contradiction to God. Jesus left heaven and all the splendor of heaven and all the riches of heaven and all the glory of heaven to become Son of Man. He left it all for us. When James and John came to him and said, "We want to follow you," what did he say? He said, "Really? Because I don't even have a place to lay my head." People wanted what they could get from Jesus, but they didn't want Jesus. And that's how we treat God today. God, we want what you can give me, just don't ask anything of me. That's not the deal. I hear this I counsel with people all the time, and this is a reoccurring thing. That's not the deal I had with God. That's not the expectation. It is God's job to take care of me. And then when all hell breaks loose, it's never their fault. It's always somehow God's fault. I'm not trying to put anybody down. I've lived there. I've been there. We have to get a perspective. We have to get our minds cleaned up by this word. We're the ones that fall in the line of the lie that we believe we got to have all of this stuff. And it's not true. The pride of life, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. Let me ask you a question. How much money do we really got to spend on our hair?
$5 for
It's okay, go.
$5 every 6 weeks.
Come on.
I don't. No, in my house.
How much money do we have to spend on our eyebrows?
Yeah.
There's some people that spend $7. There's some people that spend up to $40 on their eyebrows. There's nothing wrong with looking good. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm just saying, how lost do we have to get? Where does it stop? How many different types of shampoos do we really need to have, and why do they need to keep getting more expensive?
Wait a second, I still gotta feed my kids.
You see what I mean?
That's my business you're talking about.
But you know what I mean. You know, Glenda does hairs and nail, all that stuff for a living. That's what she does professionally. Okay? And she tells us that people get after her all the time because she sells her products for what she pays for them to her customers. She doesn't mark it up because she wants to be a blessing and not a burden to people. That's a contradiction to the American way of life. What do you mean you haven't marked it up 50% yet? And this is our attitude. This is where our pride comes from. This is a problem that we get into with God. I'm not saying don't look good. I'm not saying don't try to look good. I'm not trying to say don't be healthy, don't be fit. If you have the money to get the best, whatever that means to you. But we can't forget God in the process. We can't forget who He's called us to be. We can't forget the condition of what our heart is supposed to be in the midst of having or not having. Where does contentment fall in pride? It doesn't. There is no contentment in pride. None. The proverb says that the eyes of a man are never full. What does that mean? The more we see, the more we want. I need a new car. I need a new truck. I need a new house. I need some new shoes. I need some new dress. I need a new suit. I need a new iPad. I need a new iPad Air. I need a 60-inch TV. I need whatever it is. Proverbs says the eyes of a man are never full. The more we want, the more we see, the more we want. The more we get, the more we have to have. God's blessed me, I mean. Ask anybody who's wealthy. They'll say, God's blessed me. Really? Maybe He has. Because the Bible says He gives you power to make wealth. My question to them when they say God bless me, I had this conversation. This is true. I'm about to say it to you. I had someone who said to me, it doesn't matter what my sin is because I'm making a lot of money, so that proves God is blessing me. We believe that in the church in America. But we also forget where the devil came to Jesus and said, what? All these things I will give you, when He showed him the kingdoms of the world, if you will bow down and worship me. So if you live like hell and have everything you could ever want anyway, where do you think that's coming from? To keep you from getting right. To keep you from being on that straight and narrow path. And sometimes it's the mercy of God that lets you have it, where He's waiting for you to come back to Him. Right? But we have to be very mindful that we don't make that, we might make that as a characteristic